Nepotism is pretty funny, right? Because when you think of nepotism, you think of actors or musicians, and I'm a nepotism baby of a cab driver.
Hey.
All I get is a lot of free rides around the yard. I like to think I'm more of a nepotism baby of storytellers, because that's certainly something I've picked up, and I've gotten to get a free spot on stage just by being John McDonagh's daughter. One day, about a year ago, my dad gave me a call, and he said he had an extra ticket to go to the Moth down in Brooklyn. And I had never been to one of the Moth Story Slam events before, and I wanted to check it out, so I figured I could tag along. I also was very aware of my dad's frustration with the Moth, being that when you go to these events, people can submit their name to tell a story, and they pull one name out, you tell a story, they pull the next name out, you tell a story, so you really have to stick to the end to know if you're going to get on stage that night. And with really large audiences, only a very small percentage of people get chosen. So I thought, all right, I know my dad's been frustrated at these events before, I'll go and I'll keep him some company. And later that day, I'm on the phone with my older sisters, part of our daily check-in, and I mentioned that I'm going to the Moth tonight with my dad. And immediately they say, oh, so what story are you telling? I say, oh, no, I'm just going in the audience, I'm just tagging along with Dad. And something funny happens when a couple of feminists raise 3 daughters in New York City. My sisters are aggressively supportive of me, so the second I said that, they got mad and said, what do you mean you're not telling a story? What, you think you can't do it? Oh, you think you can't do it? You're not going to tell a story? You think Dad's the only one who can tell a funny story? So I said, all right. I'll prepare something. And, I jotted some notes down. My dad picks me up to drive over to Brooklyn, and I'm a bit nervous to tell him, but I'm like, Dad, I think I'm going to put my name in. And I swear this is possible, but if you haven't seen it, a pale Irish person can lose color in their face. That's what happened when I told him. And he says, well, you can't really just go up there and make something up. And I said, I know, Dad, I know. I have something prepared. I have notes. And he goes, okay, well, you can't bring your notes up either. I said, all right, I know. We'll see. He quickly transitioned over from stage dad mode into just regular dad mode and said, all right, this is good. You'll try it. Don't worry about it. You can bomb. Don't worry about it. At least you're trying. Good for you for putting your name out there. So we get to the Moth. We put our names in. We're waiting. They're calling names. It's not feeling likely. There's about 300 people. It's a sold-out event. And then it happens. Madden McDonagh, please come to the stage. You'll be our next storyteller. I was pretty shocked, but I got up on stage and I told a story of how when I was in kindergarten, under the supervision of both of my older sisters and my father, I swallowed a battery. Now, I know that is a life or death story. I will not spoil it for you. You can go listen to it on the Moth. But the crowd loved it, and it got a really great reception. I'm high-fiving people coming off the stage. And I get back to where my dad's sitting, and I think it was the first time ever that John McDonough was speechless. But I checked my phone, and I saw that he had already sent a video to all my family members of the performance with the caption, "A star is born." Which was really fun. And then it got even more fun when just a couple months later, the Moth reached out to me and asked for permission to put this recording of the story on to their podcast, which is a huge honor. It's a massive podcast. It has about 1 million downloads per week for every episode they put out. So this was such an exciting moment for my creative career. I thought, might change my life. So many people are going to hear my story. And it eventually does air a few months later. The day comes. And I get a good amount of calls and texts from my family, but it's all people that have already heard the story and already knew that it was going to be on the Moth. I suddenly realized that I wasn't going to hear from millions of people. It's interesting because a podcast, it's like audio only, and all the apps where you get a podcast, there's no comment section. I had been preparing myself for an onslaught of feedback, and everyone loves me, and Jimmy Fallon's on the phone, and you gotta get out here with that. But there was nothing. I knew, realistically, millions of people probably heard my story, but I never got any feedback. And that it was just a very odd feeling. A couple weeks after it went out to the world, I was a guest on my dad's radio show on WBAI, and I got to talk about that experience of what it was like getting onto the Moth. My sisters were also on, and we talked about what the experience was like as a family. And if you don't know this, Malachi McCourt, as co-host of the show on WBAI, would join the live feed via Zoom. So he actually had his camera set up so I could see Malachi while we were recording this radio interview. And we played a recording of my story from the Moth with Malachi there, and I got to watch his live reaction and live feedback to this story of just him sitting, laughing, and smiling. And after the story was done, he had some very nice comments and was just, well done, love, well done. And I very, very quickly realized that I would trade 1 million views, 1 million hits for just one response from Malachi McCourt. Yeah.